I don't talk about this often, so I'm just going to say it plainly. I'm a former federal DEI director who lost my job the first day of this new administration back in January. See, one minute you're advocating for others, and the next minute you're trying to explain to people that you may not be coming because you don't have it. See, last year looked very differently for me and for many others. And so if you're navigating this new landscape financially, emotionally, spiritually, I want you to hear me and hear me good. You are not alone. See, it's the isolation that will trick your mind into believing that you're the only one who's ever been here. But see, I asked myself a question to turn everything around. I asked, what did the ancestors do when they didn't have? Because let's be clear, our people knew something about scarcity. They knew something about losing things, something about having their resources stripped away, their rights, their safety, their stability, and still they produced joy under the weight of an oppressive system. And how did they do that? Well, I'm glad you asked. See, they gave through food, not money. See, food was the original love language, a gift that didn't come from the store. It came from the heart, from the hands, from the garden, from the pot, that firms up this part of the yard. See, when our ancestors cooked, they weren't feeding a person, they were feeding a community. With that pot big enough to feed everybody who walked through the door. See, our collard greens were seasoned with the ham bone, not the ham, because the plantation kitchen wasn't allowed to have the meat. Cornbread that stretched from almost nothing. A dish carried from house to house, made from that one family recipe that nobody dare makes unless it's a sacred day. See, food was a joy that we could produce even when we couldn't produce money. And our gifts weren't bought. They were handmade and shared. Homemade remedies, a quilt square, a story, a song, a memory, a plate, even a seat at the table. See, our ancestors' gifts weren't wrapped. They were felt. And in a day and age where we're trying to give our children everything we didn't have, we've forgotten to give them what we did. Time, presence, love, being seen by friends and family in a world that would have us be invisible. And I think that that's what we forgot, was the together gathering, that resourcefulness. It was producing joy together because joy is easier to multiply than to manufacture. So what are you saying, Carmen? I'm saying it means you don't have to isolate because you don't have it. Your presence is enough. Your laughter is enough. Your dish, even if it's simple, baby, it's enough. And if you can produce joy the same way the ancestors did, by showing up and sharing what you can and allowing the community to hold you, then that's memory. That's Forge Atelier. That's a return to intentional gathering, back to the ancestral table where lack didn't stop the feast, because the feast was always more than you could buy.